Alright, this is Bones back with another video. Quick disclaimer, I don't condone demonic activity outside of the game in real life. This is a video for entertainment purposes only. The characters in this game represent the forces of good versus evil. I just so happen to be playing the evil characters or bad guys in this particular video. Alright, on to the video. Alright, so this particular deck that I'm playing is a deck that I call Grixis Possessed. Grixis is the colors of red, blue, and black, and the characters that I play in this particular game are, bad guy or demonic characters, and there's a couple of cards that allow you to steal characters or creatures from your opponent. So this card that I got in my hand, which is Blue Sun's Twilight, allows you to take a character from your opponent. So in some of these gameplays, I'll be able to like steal my opponent's creatures and stuff like that, which is sort of the like possessed effect. So beginning of this game, I got a couple things down. I got Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is a really good enchantment, allows you to copy creatures that you control. One of the cards that I have in hand is the Chupacabra, which kills a creature of my opponent's. That's a really good target for the like Kiki Jiki part of the enchantment, which will copy that and allow me to continuously kill my opponent's creatures. And then the Body Dropper creature that I have in a play right now, every time I have to sacrifice a creature, that creature gets bigger in power and toughness. So right now I'm looking to see what my opponent's got planned. So far he hasn't put anything major into play. And then here I see he plotted the Railway Brawler. So really good target to steal if I'm able to. At the present moment, don't really have much plays in hand. I'm looking at this to see, should I destroy one of his artifacts, but he's got two of the same thing with the boots, so the Chupacabra, I'm holding on to that just to kill something that my opponent puts into play. Excuse me. The Goblin creature token that I have in a play that came from the Fable of the Mirror Breaker's first mode on the enchantment. That put that creature token in, which every time it attacks, it gets me a treasure token. That treasure token can be used to pay for bigger spells. So he's got the Railway Brawler in, and he puts in the Bristlebud Farmer. The Railway Brawler boosts the creatures that come into play, so you'll see this guy, he's gonna trigger his ability for coming into play, and then the Railway Brawler boosts him from a 5/5 creature to a 10/10 creature. It's a huge threat. So right now I'm looking to steal one of his creatures, just debating on which target is the best. Obviously the Bristlebud Farmer is bigger, but that Railway Brawler, if I can snag that, like, that'll be a huger threat. So I was debating here just throwing that in to kill one of them, but I think it's a possession time. Took me a while to think about this particular play, so alright, here we go. I'm doing it. Let's take over one of his creatures. The additional ability on Blue Sun's Twilight allows you to make a copy of the creature that you steal if you pay 5 or more mana. So he costs 5 mana, so that able to give me that token copy. And that token copy also comes into play boosted because of the first Railway Brawler's ability boosted him. So he put into play a very good enchantment that if I don't get rid of, that's going to give him a huge advantage. So I'm debating my move here because I have limited mana to work with, but I decided to attack with this Goblin Shaman that creates the treasure token. That gives me a little more mana. I didn't think ahead of time about just copying them with the Kiki Jiki. That could have made a token copy that I wouldn't care if that dies. I still could have had the treasure, still could have played my Invoke Despair, but that wipes out the creature that he already has on the battlefield and gets rid of that enchantment for me. Huge bonus. At this point, I kind of have the advantage on the battlefield. I got a lot more creatures into play. He obviously has none, and my life total's at 20. His is at 8, so I'm sure he's debating his next move and whether or not he can turn the game around from this. Obviously, he can't, so he scooped and conceded. So on to the next gameplay. Okay, so this opening hand, not looking great. I do have good cards, but I only got 2 lands. Typically speaking, you want to keep 3 or 4 land opening hands. If you keep a 2 land opening hand, you run a risk of being shorted on mana, not having enough lands to play bigger spells. So my first play isn't until turn 3. Okay, so my opponent's playing a sliver deck. Slivers tend to be pretty powerful. If they get rolling, they usually start out pretty fast, and each sliver that's put into play afterwards just boosts the rest of the slivers that they got onto the battlefield. So hopefully I'm able to stop my opponent from building up too much of a board state and just beating me before I have a chance to build up my own board state. So I'm wiping out any threats that I see. This seems to be the most threatening threat so far, so I wipe that out. That spell that I just played allows me to not only wipe out one of my opponent's creatures, but I can also make my opponent discard a card. So it's removal and discard. I think that's a really good combination. So I decided to do the same thing again, since I had 2 of these in my hand. Remove one of his creatures, make some discard. Now my opponent's at a huge disadvantage. I have card advantage since I have 5 cards in hand. My opponent's down to 1 at the moment. He plays his last card. You know, pretty decent board state. If he's able to get rolling here, he's gonna be able to take me out. But I go ahead and put the Chupacabra. This is awesome. This card is removal and a creature in 1. So I think it's one of the biggest cards you can play, because it's almost like you got a sorcery or instant spell along with the creature. Any card that can do more than one thing is like way more beneficial than a card that just does one particular thing. So take out the sliver that allowed his other creatures to be boosted. So instead of being 2/2s, they're now 1/1s, and my opponent doesn't want to attack into this. So I think it's pretty clear I got the advantage now. I'm attacking in to start getting some damage. My opponent's now top decking. He top decks a land, which does nothing for him. He no longer has a play. I think it's pretty much over at this point. I decided to put the Blightwing Whelp into play. This is a really great card that, of course, it's a creature, it's flying, it can get in for damage. Only creatures with flying or reach can block him. He does poison damage to my opponent, which puts poison counters on my opponent, but also has an ability that allows me to seek a card equal to the poison counters that are on my opponent and puts it into hand. So it's almost like card draw along with a creature and threatening poison damage. It's one of my favorite cards. On to the next gameplay. This is game 3. Alright, so this opening hand, it's a 2-lander. Not the best. I do have an Invoke the Winds. This is another card that allows me to steal things from my opponent. So just like the Blue Sun's Twilight was able to steal a creature, this Invoke the Winds is able to steal a creature or an artifact, which is really good. It costs 4 blue mana and then 1 of anything else. It's for a total of 5 mana. It'll be a little tough to pay for this particular spell because I need at least 4 blue sources, 4 islands or whatever. The Fable of the Mirror Breaker enchantment, if I can get that into play, that puts out a creature that can get me treasure tokens. So that would help to pay for the spell if I don't have enough blue lands. Playing 3 colors is kind of difficult to get all the colors that you need for any one particular thing. So I get the Fable down into play. I see he's playing a life gain strategy with the Soul Warden. So already my opponent's life total is now up to 28. So I really got to take out his life gain creatures and stuff like that. So I decided to attack in here. Really want to get that treasure token. So he blocks with his creature token. So I really want to take out that Ocelot Pride. I think I decided to wait to do it on his turn since I can play it as an instant. So my opponent now has 3 Soul Wardens into play. They give him 1 life for every creature that comes into play, whether it's on my opponent's turn on their battlefield or creatures that come into play on my battlefield. So my enchantment flips over, puts my creature into play, which then gives them a bunch of life gain off of that creature coming in. So I'll continue to attack in, get those treasure tokens built up. This will allow me to pay for that Invoke the Winds. I want to use it on a target that is a pretty big threat. Now that's a pretty big threat. If that comes into play and I can steal that, that'd be huge. So that comes in as an enchantment initially, but if my opponent has enough white permanents into play, that will flip over into a creature, which also has indestructible, so it's pretty huge. So here I kind of made a little mistake putting that Might token into play, but it doesn't really matter. I'm using Invoke Despair to wipe out one of his creatures and his Heliod while that's still an enchantment. So huge play. All the Invoke cards are pretty filthy. So the reflection of Kiki-Jiki, that can copy one of your non-legendary creatures. So I decided to copy the goblin that creates the treasure token and attack with this one. You have to sacrifice it at the end of at the end of combat. So, or I think the end of turn, but yeah. My opponent, he does probably the best thing he could have done, which was kill that reflection of Kiki-Jiki. That thing can continue to copy stuff, so he takes that out. So again, I could play the Invoke and, you know, possess one of his Soul Wardens, but I decided to play my Ob Nixilis. Ob Nixilis is a Planeswalker that can copy itself if you sacrifice a creature.
Join me. Or shake down the locals.
So my opponent doesn't like this. Feels like I have too much of an advantage. Decides to quit. So good game. All right, on to the fourth game. Opponent has a interesting name. All right, looks like I got a pretty quick opening hand. I got 3 lands, and I got a creature I can play on turn 1. So my opponent decides to kill my creature right away. No worries. I just drew another one. So threw another Archfiend's Vessel into play. It's a really good 1-drop. Has life link, which can gain me life if he can get in for damage. My opponent's not having none of that, so decides to use removal to wipe him out. Alright, I put my Whelp into play. Really like that card. See my opponent's moves. Okay, so he puts the Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. I go ahead and attack in, put a poison counter. I'm able to draw that Archfiend's Vessel card. It's technically a Seek, since it's grabbing something out of your deck at random, based on the number of poison counters that's on your opponent. So opponent got 1 poison counter. That Archfiend Vessel is exactly 1 mana, so I was able to Seek that card. Got a little removal in hand, debating whether or not I should use it right away. Yep, I decided it's for the best. Take out that Sheldred. Sheldred's pretty nasty. So I got a Blue Sun's Twilight, which is good. That'll allow me to steal one of my opponent's creatures. Once I get the second blue source to pay for it. So my opponent has a backup Sheldred. Yep, Sheldred's really huge. Every time I draw a card while Sheldred's into play, this is gonna take 2 life away from my life total. Every time my opponent draws a card, it'll gain him 2 life. So really want to take that out. I decided to put the Chupacabra in. Chupacabra takes out Sheldred. I'm able to get in another attack with the Whelp. Puts a 3rd poison counter on my opponent and allows me to seek a card based on 3 mana value. So I got a nice removal. He decides to take that out. Good deal for him, because that'll continue to give me card advantage as long as that's into play. He decides to put a Liliana.
I'll have this fight finished before brunch.
He pluses it to make me discard a card, helping him take away some of my card advantage. I really want to toss this since I don't have a second blue source, but I do want to steal one of my opponent's things if I can, so I decided to keep that in. The Chupacabra is huge, but I can get it back with the Virtue of Persistence. So I decided to use this, get rid of that annoying Liliana. It's always a good card to play with, but it's really annoying playing against. I use Virtue of Persistence to take out his Flesh Gorger. Get in for a couple attacks, gain me some life. I think my opponent feels pretty confident. Maybe not before that turn, but or I should say maybe not after that turn, but before that turn, I think he was pretty confident that, you know, he had the game still in hand. But at this point, I got card advantage. It's not a lot my opponent can do at this point.
Wait, why the world? Wait, sister, why the world look orange like that?
It's getting spooky.
Spooky.
Uh-huh.
I decided to play this, the Witty Roastmaster. Not sure why he did that. I guess to keep the Archfiend Vessel from attacking. He could have waited till I declared the attack, but he did it ahead of time. Okay, Preacher of the Schism, really good card that he put into play. That card in particular can give you a bunch of things. Card advantage. It can give you a creature token. So something that I do want to remove from the battlefield. It's got a toughness of 4, which means I really can't attack into it. So not sure why he does this play. I guess doing that as another blocker. So I want to remove one of those. I decided the Preacher is the better target to remove. So I use my removal, get rid of the Preacher of the Schism. So I'm not getting lands at this point, which really sucks. I do want to get that second blue source so I can, you know, snatch one of his creatures. It would have been nice to snatch the Preacher of the Schism, but wasn't able to. So go ahead and play this for removal. This has other modes on it, so I decided to use the one that will return a card from my graveyard to my hand. Of course, the Blightwing Whelp is like the best card I can get back. I remove his creature land and get in for a couple attacks. My opponent draws another land, decides to put out Mites. Those aren't much threats to me at this point. I mean, one gets in, it does poison damage. So I'm able to put my Blightwing Whelp into play. It triggers the Roastmaster's ability to ping my opponent for 1 damage. I use his haste ability, get in for some damage, for the poison counter, seek a card. Yeah, my opponent, whatever he draws here, if it doesn't wipe the board, I got the win in hand. And that's the game. Good game. Thank you for watching the video, and stay tuned for more.